All right. Hello and welcome to We Are Trans's monthly panel discussion this month. It is an honor to be Asian and trans for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I am going live with my friends Chris Kachinda, Tan Wong, and Dash Kwiatkowski. For those of you who are just tuning in now, thank you so much for being incredible. We're going to give people a couple of minutes to come in before we officially get started. So first of all, how's everyone doing today?
Good. I just got my second shot, so I'm fully vaccinated now.
Amazing.
I feel good. I also could go into a flu and fever any minute now. We'll see.
Which one did you
For
get?
now, I feel good.
Which one did you get?
Pfizer.
I did the Pfizer too. I didn't feel that bad after the second shot. I got a little bit achy, and I got
A little bit achy.
sore, but it was definitely not as bad as some people made it out to be. I was fine.
Yeah.
I was
I
bad
should
for a
just
couple hours. I woke up in the middle of the night, hot sweats, basically.
Yeah.
I didn't get symptoms until several hours later, lasting until about the time that I got the shot the next day.
When I got mine, so BMI, body mass index, is fake and it's based on Nazi race science, but it did say that I qualified for the shot earlier, so I was like, cool, thank you, I guess. But I went to get it, and there was a bunch of army men were handing them out and giving shots and stuff, and so they sit you in a room afterwards for 15 minutes just to make sure you don't die or whatever. And you can call army men over to ask them questions if you want. And this old lady called an army man over, and she was like, how old do you have to be to get the shot? Because a lot of these people are very young. And I was like, shut the fuck up, narc. You're also getting it. What is wrong with you? I'm not coming and taking your shot. You also got a shot.
Oh my god. That is so funny. You should have kicked that lady's ass.
It was army dude giving you the shot too?
Yeah, an army dude gave me the shot.
Did it feel as apocalyptic as it? Because I'm in Philadelphia, is where I got mine, and it literally feels like we're the survivor of the end of a zombie movie. Except we dress nice. Except everyone is dressed up, But it really is because it's all army people.
Yeah,
and
it's all
giant stadium.
Hello, Dusty Panda. Welcome to the show. In the chat.
Oh my gosh, we have a comment.
We have a comment in the chat. It's Sosie Panda watching on YouTube.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm gonna be like, "What's up, Sosie Panda?" Okay, work. Okay, so
you
Chris,
wrote it also. You wrote it and said it.
Literally wrote it because you gotta be thorough.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, how are you today? What's your vibe? I see you're in your closet.
Yeah, I'm in my walk-in closet. It's the only place that I can guarantee that it's soundproof entirely because I have a dog who has separation anxiety, and so she'll claw. But she's my partner right now, so
let her in.
She's the cutest. She's the cutest. I have I hugged her extra tight this morning. I was going to be away for you for a little bit. But yeah, no, I actually recorded I was a guest on a Drag Race podcast this morning, which Christian, thankfully you connected me with the people. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much again.
Well, they asked me, and I was like, I actually don't give a fuck about Drag Race. So, sorry. Yes. Okay. How was the recording?
It was great. It was funny because I watched the episode. They don't release the episodes for this season until midnight on the West Coast, 3 a.m. on the East Coast then. And so the recording was at 8 a.m. So I had to watch it, sleep a little bit, and then wake up for it. But I took an edible beforehand, and it hit during the episode. And I didn't go to sleep till 3 a.m. So I'm running off very little sleep too.
Okay. And by edible, I'm assuming you just mean food, right?
Yes, food, yeah. Edible food. I'm in California, by the way. Just
food.
Oh,
yeah,
very cool.
California, incredible.
California.
Koreatown.
Which, LA?
Yeah, LA. Sorry.
Got it.
I'm from LA. Yeah.
Originally, so.
Oh, awesome. I was born and raised in the Bay.
Cool.
cool. California Asians.
Yeah.
What about Texas Asians? Where are we? Are we in the comments? Okay. Ash, how are you? What have you been up to today?
I've just been celebrating David Attenborough's birthday as best I can. He's 95. We're all very excited.
Getting high
David
with
Attenborough, who he has a new show on Netflix. It's great. It's called Living in Color, and it's all about how like animals see colors that we don't see, and like it rules ass. It's extremely good. Apparently, like mammals can't be green. Did you know this? Mammals can't produce green as a color. Like they just can't be naturally green. Which is why tigers are orange. And here's what I'm going to explain it, because deer are orange green colorblind, and deer are the main thing that tigers are hunting. So when a tiger is approaching deer, it just sees it as green, as like blending in. So like orange is the closest a tiger can be to being green to the thing that it's hunting, which is super cool. Yeah, Living in Color. It's on Netflix. 3 episodes. David Attenborough, 1,000,000 years old, adorable. Christian, you saw I posted this, but I guess like 40 years ago, David Attenborough was like at BBC being like, we have to put black teachers and trans people on BBC because David Attenborough rules. Has been cool for a long time. I'm fine. I'm just hanging out.
I'm fine.
David Attenborough's birthday, celebrate.
So if I dress all orange, I could sneak up on a deer.
You could sneak up. Well, their hearing is very good. It depends on the deer. So deer's hearing is very good, and then some deer hang out with monkeys that see very well and aren't orange green colorblind. And if the monkey screams, that means there's a tiger.
That is fucking like solidarity right there. That is like MLM WLW solidarity. Incredible. So I said it before, I'll say it again. Here we are. We Are Trans's monthly panel discussion, hosted by none other than me, Christian Luu. This month we are talking about Asian American Pacific Islander experience as it intersects with trans and gender nonconforming identity. Here we are. I've assembled a group of the most powerful trans and gender nonconforming Asian folks that I could find in a 2 weeks notice. And furthermore, I love them. We have Dash Kwiatkowski, we have Dan Wong, and we have Chris Cochinda. Okay, first of all, let's get started. What is your relationship to being Asian American Pacific Islander? What's your experience? What's your story? Chris, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I feel like my story is basically that of somebody who tried to assimilate for as long as they could until like it was just so suffocating that in my 20s I just kind of was like, fuck it. And I've been trying to reclaim my culture and learn more about Thai culture since then in little ways. It's been hard though. It's kind of like a I can't read or write Thai, so like that it's a big barrier for me getting a lot of information from other things. So I basically just have to like hear things or watch YouTube videos.
Who are your big like Thai cultural resources? I'm immediately coming to mind is like Chrissy Teigen's mom and like
Wait, I actually have both of Chrissy Teigen's Cravings cookbooks because I do appreciate the Thai section that she has on it.
Really?
Yeah, I know, this is so awful, but I appreciate it because at least I'm learning like some of the basics, and I'll call my mom and be like, Mom, like, is this close? Is this right? And she's like, yeah, you're good. Because when I ask her for recipes, she just like gives me like chicken scratch that I'm like, she's like writing like,
yeah, she's like this many like soup spoons worth of fish sauce.
Exactly. I need the exact number, and it's just like she's like, just go for it, and I'm like, no.
Like, yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Chris. Tan?
Let's see. It's very strange. I'm from Vietnam, by the way, and it's just so like weird because I feel like at one point we're gonna stop making Vietnam War films, right? Because it feels like forever that's the only identity that comes with Vietnam. But then lately, I feel like the past 5 years, Vietnam's been kind of like the new hot topic because then everyone knows what a banh mi is. They still pronounce it wrong, but at least they know it. And I'm like, I did not know that you guys were gonna know what that word is. But it's very interesting, you know. But I was also like Chris was just when I first came to America, I just focusing on fitting in, and I think it's very easy to get brainwashed as a foreigner when you come to America because like they make American history look so awesome, you know. And like I know I'm from Vietnam, like the country you guys fought, you know. And as soon as I came over, I was just so like quickly Americanized. And then like it wasn't until I think like in my 20s that I started to really appreciate my culture and you know where I come from. But you know, that took a while.
Yeah, I'm also Vietnamese for the record. And I definitely have a similar experience in regards to this like sort of like Vietnamese cultural boon happening in American zeitgeist right now. Well, and I think the thing that's most infuriating for me is like the fact that I'm like used to getting a banh mi from like this like hole in the wall in like a suburb in Texas and being like $3 for like one that's like filled to the brim. And now in New York, I'll like get like a half of a baguette's worth of banh mi for like $8, and I'm like,
it doesn't even have goose liver in it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Can I talk about the banh mi for a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I love the banh mi because it's the perfect representation of Vietnamese culture because Vietnamese culture has a lot of French influence. People don't realize that. A banh mi is a baguette with foie gras, which is goose liver. It's a baguette with goose liver and Vietnamese meat and vegetable. That's what makes it a banh mi. You know, so I feel like if you don't have the goose liver, I know it's bad to eat goose liver, but it's just like it's missing the cultural point. Anyway.
I need it. Well, and also like people have tried to give me banh mi without like very much like dochua on it, and I'm like, this is not right.
Yeah.
This is not right. The pickled vegetables make it. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, sorry. We'll get back into food.
Okay.
We'll get back into food. But for now, I want to bring it over to Dash and have them tell us about their experience.
So I'm mixed race Korean, first generation. I'm first generation Korean and then like fourth generation, a million shades of white. So I'm a bunch of things and it's weird. I have to say really quick before I talk about myself, just Vietnamese food in general, there's so much like weird white people trying to do it. And I think the best example of that I've seen is back in San Francisco, there was a restaurant and they like put up they're like, we serve pho now. And their sign just said like phi, fi, pho, fum. And I understand that it was someone trying to make it fee fi fo fum, but I was like, that's not how that's said. If you write fee fi fo fum, what are you doing? And I was terrible. Yeah, deeply upsetting. So yeah, I'm mixed race Korean. I think like it seems pretty common that the idea of like buying into just American culture, and I think like as someone who was raised and socialized raised and socialized male, just this idea of like, what is Asian masculinity? What does this mean? Like, what does it mean to be in a culture that is constantly telling you like whatever your version of masculinity is femininity and so on? I think like absolutely made it a lot harder for me to figure gender stuff out until much later. Just because I think you fight back so much against this idea of, you know, wanting to appear masculine. And I think like Chris, you were talking about buying into stuff and like, yeah, absolutely. It's so easy because everything tells you. And then sometimes there's this cool one where you have a white dad who's very racist against Asian people. And so like, yeah, my relationship to being Asian is complicated, I think, especially also because like I come from a Korean parent who was illegally adopted, has a very weird, complicated relationship with Korea and Korean identity. And so I wasn't taught the language. Everything I know about like cooking Korean food and everything is stuff I've had to figure out like as an adult later, and figure out how to like reclaim and develop my own relationship with my roots. I still don't speak the language. I got a Duolingo. I used it 3 times and I forgot. But yeah, I think it's really complicated being Asian and having gender, especially in this bad country.
Yeah. Well, and I think also it's like, I feel like there is also like a big cultural boon happening with Korean culture and American zeitgeist, and like, you know, there are so many people who are like, oh, K-pop, oh, Kalbi, oh, like.
The one that makes me the most angry is bibimbap, because the whole concept of bibimbap is just a bowl with leftovers in it, and people go like, "Oh, I love bibimbap," but it's like, you love leftovers. That's leftovers. You're buying leftovers. If you went to a restaurant and were like, "Give me a bowl of leftovers," that's what it is. You put everything in the bowl and you put an egg on it. It's leftovers. But Americans are like, "I love Korean food. I love bibimbap," and it's like, you're just saying you love leftovers.
Well, I will say though that like peasant food, like
yeah, it's the best. No, for sure.
Peasant food rocks.
Yeah,
it's true. Like Christian, you probably know, like in Vietnam, like the parents always make you eat like these like good foods, like these are the food of the kings, and it's always some like boring black skin chicken soup that is supposed to like be good for you, but it tastes medicinal. You know.
My mom we never had any black chicken when I was growing up, and I was like, "Mom, what is this? Has been in the grocery store the whole time?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's stupid.
It's not that great. Black chicken. It's like it's really, you know, bowl. The word Vietnamese bowl, which means like, what does that mean? It's like good for your health.
Yeah, it's like
yeah. And it's basically, it's like when something's bowl, it doesn't matter if it tastes good or not. It's just eat it.
Yeah. Okay. Next question for us.
Christian, do you want to talk about yourself?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No. I'm like famously modest and humble. As you know. Okay, so I both my parents are Vietnamese. They met after they moved to America. And I was raised in a pretty dense Vietnamese community, which is like kind of lit in some ways and kind of not lit in others. Like, for example, like, you know, it's a church, it's also a church community. So like everyone's very, very conservative. And, you know, I read an article recently about how like people who immigrate to other countries from like Asian countries tend to be more conservative than like the people in those Asian countries, because like the culture evolves like in those countries, but then it doesn't evolve in the communities that are like diasporic communities. So everyone's very conservative. We have like a very strict idea of what gender is like, and it's like, and I have a really also, I went to school with a lot of like white kids. I mean, obviously, we all went to school with a lot of white kids. But surprise, white people. Okay, so I had a really weird relationship with all the white kids in my school, because like I was the only Asian person they knew, but they were the only white people I knew. Chat is working.
We can see Soci Panda.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Let me finish this real quick. And so I have like really distinct memories of like going home to my parents and like crying and being like, I wish I was white. Which is like so dramatic of me, but like you know, that went away obviously. And so as I grew older, I was like, my sister and I were really into doing this thing where we were like comparing ourselves to like non-assimilated Asian people and like saying that we were better than them. It was really weird. We're growing past it. And now I'm kind of in the same position as y'all are, where I'm like sort of rediscovering my roots. and like doing that thing. I mean, I'm not really cooking very much because tragically I'm like really bad at grocery shopping.
What?
I will
What
say
could that possibly mean?
I said it once, I'll say it again. I'm bad at grocery shopping. Here's the thing. It's like I go into the grocery store, I have a game plan, I pick up, instead of what's on the game plan, I pick up like whatever I want, and then I go home and I'm like, oh, like I can't do this now, this thing, I'm sorry. And then the groceries go bad before I cook them. I'm bad at grocery shopping. I'm baby. And like, okay, like every time I go home, my mom tries to teach me how to make takah because I love takah, and that's like what I'm supposed to be baking for myself at home. And it's just like very involved, and I would rather just like make rice and eggs. So rice and eggs is very lit for me. Everything else,
is lit, period.
Yeah, do you know how to make kaijio?
I don't know what that is.
It's a Thai egg omelet.
Okay.
You basically add fish sauce and just make some fish sauce, high heat and oil, and just toss it on there for a bit. It like fluffs up.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that I do put fish sauce in my scrambled eggs,
Okay.
and I do cook it on high heat, so it might be a similar thing. I think my dad taught me a similar thing when I was younger. I mean, fish sauce in scrambled eggs is lit.
Everything.
Here's what's okay. So I laughed when you said you're bad at grocery shopping because again, I maintain that means nothing. But then you described it, and I'm trying to think of like advice that I would give you, and I can't because there's nothing. I can't. If you make a list and follow it, but if you can't do that, then like yes, you are bad at grocery shopping. Have you considered like one of those? You tell the person like this is what I want, and then they deliver it to you or whatever.
Yes, and that's almost worse because then like I don't have to deal with things in my hands, and now I have like 16 pounds of pasta chilling on top of
pasta good.
I love pasta, but now I'm like, what do I eat the pasta with?
Sauce.
I'm
trying to help.
Who? Yeah, I mean, like, I'm good at getting pantry staples and cooking them and eating. But, like, I am not good at, like, oh, I want to make this recipe. I'm going to get these ingredients.
Okay.
Okay. Next question. I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah. Well, I also want to talk about Sosie Panda's comment. I found out that my sister and I are Asian descent in the family, but haven't told my friends. Spent most of my time in America. Okay, well, reclaim that shit. Reclaim it, baby. Okay. Next question. How do you feel like being Asian affects your gender identity? Anyone want to tackle this first? I know, Dash, you were talking about your relationship with masculinity. Do you want to start us off?
Sure. I mean, I think it absolutely made, like, I sort of said this slightly at first, but I think it made, like, figuring out, like, non-binary gender identity a little bit harder because I think when you're so sort of beat over the head with this idea that you're not masculine enough, I think a lot of times you can sort of ricochet the other way and like try to be hyper masculine and try to be like, I mean, like who else went to college with like salmon shorts Asian bros and like they're out there and they're in the frat houses and they're trying to outbro the white bros and they're succeeding in a lot of ways. But it's hard because like, it's hard to like be upset at it. It's easy to be upset at them, but also you have to be sad for them too because it sucks. It sucks to be in a place where you're constantly being told that you are not enough. Like whatever you are is not enough. And I think when you live under that, it can be really easy to not take the time to think about your own gender identity and not think about what that even means. And like, I didn't figure out, like gender stuff until my late 20s when I started having trans friends and I would listen to them and I'd be like, oh, some of this is familiar and I'm not going to think about why.
No, I do think that you bring up an interesting point, and it's that straight men are largely strangers to themselves.
Well, and this is the other thing, like, not even, and this is a thing that I tell people constantly when people are like, hey, what if I started thinking about gender? What do I do? And I'm like, yeah, do it. Here's the thing. It is free. Like, you can think about gender for free. No one is going to charge you for this. And I have friends who come out the other end of that journey and are like, oh, they realize that they are cis, but those people have such a more chill experience with gender conceptually, with the genders of other people and understanding, because I think a lot of cisgendered people don't take the time to even think about what it means to be cisgendered, because they're so used to the idea of default, like being the default, in the same way that white people are so used to being the default thing. And I think that I think these are very related. I think these are very, very related. And I think that, when you take the time to really figure out what your gender is, whether you land on something in the spectrum of trans or something in the spectrum of cis, you have a deeper understanding of both things. And I think that the sort of the pressures of like being Asian and presenting as mask or whatever definitely made it take longer for me, or made it harder for me to take that time and like have those thoughts. And I'm glad that I did, because here I am. And I would just, encourage everyone in the chat, if it's more than just Soci Panda, think about gender.
Yeah,
think about gender. Worth it.
Everyone think about gender. Soci Panda, think about gender. Okay, great. Thank you, Dash. Chris, do you want to take it next?
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. I mean, I will say I'm like very new, to this. I came out pretty recently, even like in the last like 2 months, and like being in quarantine, like I just been able to do a lot of thinking, because what else is there to do, but yeah, I feel like I don't think I've actually gotten to that part of being able to like to examine myself within like my cultural context too, and my gender too. I just know, like, just in browsing briefly, like Thailand, like, is known for having lots of genders, like a lot, and like it's not just like one binary. I remember reading that and just kind of feeling connected in a way to that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, like these are like things that inherently, like if I were in Thailand still, like I could kind of get to parse out and think about that way, but everything's been so colonialized here that it just male or female.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, and I think also, I mean, I think people have a lot of jokes about like trans, especially like women from Thailand, and like there's a lot of like humor surrounding like the idea of like da 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 da, like this outlying group of people, but actually, like, when you think about it, like those people are like thriving, like they're actually so happy. And what about you?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, I think that that's really interesting, especially like when you think about the intersection. Tan, I'm very interested in hearing your perspective, because I mean, we're both Vietnamese, we're both trans femme, da 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 da. Take it away.
Both of you guys make me think a lot. Dash, what you said about not like letting yourself think about gender. Like when I was little growing up, I wanted to be a girl. I didn't know how. I remember like there was a myth that's like, oh, if you could cross underneath a rainbow, you can make a wish. And I remember my first thought was, that's how I'm gonna be a girl. And I was just like, all right, that's how that's gonna happen. And then I started coming to America, and that was all I can think of. It's like I had to like put everything aside and just like, I gotta like learn English and like join this whole new world. And I immediately just conform in so many ways that when I dressed up for the first time as a female and with makeup and really finally see myself, the first thing that came back to my memory was the rainbow thing. It was literally like, wow, that was the last time I thought about gender. It was just like, it was the idea of like regressed memory is so true, because like it was just like, yeah, that was me. I'm still that little kid in Vietnam who's like gonna make his wish, you know, when he crosses rainbow to being a girl. What happened to that kid? It's like, well, that's me, you know. And it was just crazy that all that came back to me. So it is very important just to think about it, because I've just been avoiding it. Just literally just do not think about that. Just assimilate, conform, you know. And it's so interesting what you said about when you bring up the whole Thai thing, because when I was a little kid in Vietnam, I remember my parents, they would take trips to Thailand, and they would come back and they would bring back pictures and be like, look at these beautiful ladies. And I'm like, they're bede, you know, which is
Oh
Vietnamese
my
word for
gosh.
bede. And they're like, they would bring back like home videos or photo, like where they go to bede sexy show, which is like trans sexy show. And I remember it being like this kind of like this novelty, you know, hey, I went to Thailand and look what I came back with. So
We lost Ash.
that was literally like, you know, before I thought about gender, that was my only information about trans people. It's like, oh yeah, it was this thing that my parents go see when I was a little kid.
I'm back. Sorry.
You know? So I don't know, just being Asian is very different because we're sexualized in a certain way or fetishized in a certain way. So like when you add gender into it, it's just like, you know, create this mix. For example, there's a study that says Asian women are like very top of like people, when people go on online dating, they want to find a cute Asian girl. And then an Asian guy is like the opposite, you know? And so it's just very weird to just like, I just want to feel feminine. Can I not be part of a fetish or a thing, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think that I remember my parents talking about like beta people when I was younger, and I was like, okay. Well, and also my mom always tells a story about how my dad, like when like I was starting to show like signs of like being queer as a young child, he was like heartbroken, blah 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 blah, all of this stuff about like yada yada yada. And obviously now I'm like, oh, that sucks that we can't have a relationship because he's like very whatever, da 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 da. Well, but at the time I was like, oh god, like shit, I'm like doing all this wrong. Which is, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like cosmically funny. Because it's like, you know, I think when you're a kid, it's like your parents are disappointed in you and you're like, oh, that sucks because that means I'm bad. But now as an adult, it's like your parents are disappointed in you and it's like, that's your fucking problem.
Tan, my internet cut out for a little bit while you were talking, so I missed a lot of what you said. But at the end, when you're talking about fetishization, another interesting thing about being Asian is that for whatever fucking reason, people are so comfortable fetishizing us. Like they're so comfortable not just fetishizing us, but like talking about it to us and other people and publicly. Like people are so comfortable. Just like, do you know I like how often people said, "Oh yeah, yada yada yada, yellow fever," and it's like, hey. I understand that people are going to be gross all on their own, but like you realize you should be embarrassed about this, yes? Like you realize you should be embarrassed about your weird like racist fetishizing of a race of people. Absolutely. Like they're so comfortable with it. They're so comfortable talking about us again, even to our fucking faces in a way that it's like I don't think you do this to most other races, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also like the expectation that like we are like a submissive people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which like tragically I am a stereotype. But
well, I specifically remember like there was this guy that I was like hardcore flirting with for like years and years, and we finally were at a point where both of us were like available. There's a white guy, obviously, and we were finally able to like hook up, and we were talking, and he was just like, oh, and he was just laying out this whole fantasy that he had in his head about me being like submissive, and I was like, I'm not though. Like, I'm sorry that this construction that you created of me in your head is so A, racist, but B, like incorrect. Like that's not how this is gonna go down. I mean, it's not going down now, but it's not how it would have gone down were you not this way. And piggybacking off of Christian, the thing you just said about like family and like disappointment stuff, like I feel like I don't know when this is going to be a bigger conversation, but can we talk about how filial piety is one of the most toxic concepts that in terms of how it affects all of our lives, because it's huge.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many people who just like hate their family, and like, you know, they're like living these like miserable lives because they feel like they have to like like honor their parents or whatever. And while I do agree that like it's important to have a community and it's important to take care of your community, like yes, filial piety is fucking shit.
Filial piety sucks shit. And also, like, when you have abusive parents and your culture tells you that you have to be respectful of them regardless of what they do, all that's doing is preparing you to take shit from partners that you have in the future and friends and bosses and everything.
And it's also gonna be where it's like you're gonna be that position.
Yeah.
Like, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
It's like then you're gonna treat the same way to people below you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you become Elaine Chow. Then you find your very own Mitch McConnell and just live out your sick little fantasy, punishing all of those whores. Okay, so here's a fun question. We've been having kind of a heavy conversation, and I just wanted to throw out a little fun question. And it's who is your Asian gender icon? And I'll start this off by saying that my Asian gender icon is Plastic Tiara, because first of all, icon, like giving me full like K-pop boy, but like Paris by Night girl icon. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Paris by Night, but it's like very Vietnamese American. It's like a variety show that they produce in California, and it's like very wild. And there's like a specific kind of like look that they go for, and I mean, it's incredible. Yes, Plastic Tiara, definitely a gender icon for me. Anybody want to take it up next?
Lucy Lou. Oh, sorry, Lucy Lou and Charlie's Angels, specifically. I remember seeing that movie when I think I was like 7, and just kind of feeling like, oh, like there's someone like I kind of really feel attached to this person. Like that's really cool, but like why and in what way and how? You know, has been something I've been figuring out this whole time.
Yeah, I feel Lucy Lou. I feel very attached to in that way as well. Like I remember the scene where she's like undercover at the tech company, and it's like Barracuda is playing. Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy's in that too.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a.
And what else does she do? That scene where she's like walking on Tim Curry's back and she like kills him, whatever.
She knocks him out. She knocks him out to get one of his keys or whatever.
I don't know. I think she kills him.
I know. I love her.
Yeah. Okay.
Asian gender identity. I just realized now that like all of them are white to me. I don't have an Asian gender. Like I can't even think of any other Asian actress other than Sandra Oh and Lucy Liu right now. So it's just like, for me, it's Hermione. Like it's always been like Hermione and Meg from Hercules. Have you guys seen Hercules?
Oh yeah.
I recently watched that and I was like, wow, Hercules is a himbo. It is a male bimbo. And the only one who's like cool is this girl. I remember hearing that song. That she did. And it's just so unapologetically delicate and feminine. You know that song?
Yeah.
No,
Won't say I'm in love.
Won't say
Yeah.
no. Yeah. But yeah, because like all my cousins were like watching that, be like, "Oh, isn't Hercules cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's this other girl is pretty cool too."
Yeah.
But I'm disappointed to say I don't have an answer for that.
I need it to be acknowledged that you can't put 4 Asian queers together on a stream without someone singing music from a Disney musical. That's important, and it's something that we have to acknowledge and talk about.
I mean, at least it wasn't A Whole New World, right?
No, I mean, the one from Mulan is the one
very
from
specific
Mulan
song.
is the prototypical. I'm surprised it wasn't the one from Mulan that we would all sing in my
Oh,
Asian
yeah.
American theater group. Anyway,
Oh
It's
my
also
god.
fun.
Ryo Mizunami. Ryo Mizunami is a professional wrestler. Her nickname is Aniki, which means big brother in Japanese. Ryo Mizunami, Google her. She's amazing. She's perfect in terms of aesthetics and also being very tough and cool and gender goals. Ryo Mizunami. Also just mostly Japanese pro wrestlers. Bull Nakano, amazing. There's she calls herself the genderless wrestler, but I believe she uses she her pronouns. It's hard because like Japanese language is like pronouns are not, they don't translate necessarily perfectly, but her name is Veni and she's also amazing. Japanese pro wrestling, it's great.
Wow.
Ryo Mizunami. Google it.
I'm gonna Google her. I feel like also you brought up Mulan and I immediately thought of, did y'all see the live action Mulan film?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Why would I do that to myself?
I can't watch it because all I can think of is every time like Crazy Rich Asian come out or Mulan came out, and my mom is just like, she's like yelling at me. She's like, "Why aren't you in those movies? Every Asian is in this movie right now. Why aren't you at least an extra in it?" And like so anytime there's a really big Asian movie cast come out, I just know my mom's gonna bring it up. It's like, I just saw a trailer. It was like a full Asian movie. Why aren't you anywhere near this? And I'm just like,
oh my gosh.
I also didn't watch it because the actress was very bad about like Hong Kong stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, if you do choose to watch it, it's very good. It's not very good, but it's got like a very clear, like sort of like Phiem Thao style.
Mm-hmm.
Which for the non-Vietnamese people in this chat, it's like those like Cantonese martial arts films.
Yeah.
oh, I see.
And I love that style. First of all, I mean, like I grew up watching that with my dad, and Gong Li, who you may remember as being cast as the very controversial Hatsumomo in Memoirs of a Geisha. She was very iconic in Mulan. Like, it was very queer. It was very feminine. She always had like these sleeves that like dragged along the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that like big sleeves is like very much like a thing for me gender wise.
Sure.
So I really love that. And let me just, I've got a picture. Okay, great.
I'm putting pictures in the chat.
I see the pictures.
Ryo Mizunami.
And I love them. Wow. Okay, yeah, she's really hot. I feel like Japanese pro wrestling would be like so theatrical in a way that like American wrestling like kind of not like fails at, but like how like once they took the crowds out of wrestling, like it just got very like porny.
Say porny?
No, wrestling has always been horny, actually. Or did you say corny?
I said porny, like as
Okay, yeah.
a level of production that like studio porn.
Japanese pro wrestling in general treats it a lot more like we're pretending this is a real sport than American pro wrestling does, which is both good and bad in different ways. but so yes and no. I would say there's more like standard like theater gay theatrics in American pro wrestling, but Japanese pro wrestling is in general done better.
I see. I like every time I consume wrestling media, I'm always like, that should be me. I should be a wrestler. And then I'm like, I actually don't want to get like my arm broken or anything, but like just like doing like professional like live stage combat just sounds so fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should all be stunt people. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of our little chat. I've had such a great time. I feel like every time I get a group of Asian people together, we always talk about media and food, which did not fail this time. Incredible. Someone said Crazy Rich Asians, so I think that fills up our bingo card.
Still haven't seen it.
But yes, let's wrap up with if you could get everyone watching this stream to do one thing for the betterment of the Asian community at large, if they're gonna white savior us, what's the best way they can do that? Anyone can start. I'm
Venmo me $50.
Okay, so Venmo dash $50. That is direct action if I've ever heard it. Dash, what's your Venmo?
It's just my name at Dash Kwiatkowski. No, I mean that's a joke. Obviously, it's not Venmo me $50, but it is a joke. I think in general, I talked a lot about. I was talking about thinking about gender, and I think that applies to race too, right? I think it's important to, people like a lot. It's hard because a lot of these things sort of become like buzzwords and jokes. Like people say like, "Oh, check your privilege," and that becomes like a punchline that people say, "Check your privilege," and it's sort of like it gets memed out of having any sort of meaning. But it's worth considering where you exist and what you exist as, and like take the time to think about your gender, and maybe you'll learn something about yourself, whether or not it is that you are cis or that you are trans or that you don't know what you are, and that's okay too. But take the time to think about your race and how that affects how you exist and how you navigate the world, because when you stop to think about what your experience is and how it is colored by the color of your skin or lack thereof, I think it can really change how you interact with people and the things that you take for granted. So I think, if you want to be an ally and not just buy a fucking pin that says ally at Target and wear it and be like, that's enough, I think just really take the time to think about the emotional labor you are demanding from the people around you. Think about the things that you could just Google instead of asking a person because it's now their job to explain things to you. Really just consider yourself in the space that you occupy and what that means to the people around you sharing that space. And then Venmo me $50.
Okay, yeah, great. I was like, give us an action step. I'm like, I'm hearing a lot of thinking and I want more doing.
Well, because white people don't think about anything.
Neither do I. I'm smooth brain bimbo, baby. Okay, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, like going off what Dash said, like really think about like the things you say and laugh at too, like jokes wise. I feel like my entire life I've experienced like just little bits here and there from people, like, and everyone laughs at it and it's fine. It's comfortable, and I have to laugh along with it too. And the thing is, like, it becomes so normalized that like Asian people as a whole kind of like loses, like, I don't know, really loses a little bit of itself because of that, and like how people treat us. It's like okay to treat us a certain way because joke about all these things is fine. But yeah, so think about that a lot, please.
Thank you, Chris. Tan, any action steps for our viewers?
Well, I guess this is a tip I would love to give. I mean, I'm glad somebody asked, but I think this is just an advice I want to give someone if they encounter something different, race-wise, gender-wise, is that don't always assume we're also different. You know, like it's kind of like when I went into a white person's house and they're like, "Oh, what do we do? How do we, how do we treat an Asian person?" It's like, well, don't think like that. We're all people. Like I have never been offended by someone not offering me chopsticks. Like you just like like stop treating us like we're this different thing and that I need to know how to deal with this difference. Like, no, we're all focused on what we have in common. If you don't know what to say to a trans person, talk about the weather. I don't care. Focus on the things that we have in common. It's just of like, well, I got to find out what's different about them. I got to find out these answers. Oh, different. Everything's no, we're all the same. We just, if you treat another person like how you would treat your friend, it doesn't matter what race, gender, age they are.
Yeah. I think, thank you so much, Stan. I think for me, I would love for people to just like listen to us. Like, don't ask, just listen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I am like, I'm not like a font of knowledge, obviously, but I'm like, like the things I want you to know, like I'll make an Instagram post about or whatever, right? Like you don't have to interact any further than that. If you have a question, Google it, right? Like Dash said. And then also like don't be weird on dating apps.
Oh
I
yeah,
feel
I
Go
I
ahead.
was tell a horror story I had. Like it really does like mess with your psyche. Like having people tell you like right in their profile like no Asians, but like
No.
also if you message somebody and being like no Asians like to your face when texting. This guy once told me, he was like, I don't usually hook up with Asians, but if you have a nice ass, like I can come into your place, you don't ever turn around, and I'll just fuck you and leave. And like it was it was baffling. Like that's the thing. That's the stuff that happens on these apps. Like people feel so comfortable talking to someone that they don't even know and not even think about the effect of what that has on them.
That is insano banano.
Yeah.
I always feel like, well, because I don't interact at all with people who like have those kind of markers on their profiles.
Right, right.
Silly, but I encounter a lot of people who are like very into like knowing things about you, like intimate knowledge about your genetic lineage.
Oh.
And once they find out those things, they're like, yeah, you're my dirty little geisha boy, aren't you? And I'm like, ooh, no, I'm not. Like, I'm not a little like me so horny, me love you long time girl. Except tragically I am. It's just like thinking about my race, right?
I have another action item.
Oh, give it to us. Give it to us.
Start casting Asian women who aren't Aquafina and things. That's my big one.
Oh my god.
Start casting Asian women who didn't build an entire career making fun of black people. It would be cool. That would be a cool one, I think, personally.
I tragically really like her work sometimes.
And more Southeast Asian people too.
Yes.
More Southeast Asian people.
Please.
Give Tegan a job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we need to bring Tila Tequila back.
No,
we don't.
Now.
No, we don't.
Nazi now.
Yeah, we super don't need to bring back Tila Tequila.
That is so wild. Well, and then also like, I don't know if y'all remember watching that show, but like, she like interacted with the women on that show in a very uncomfortable way. Okay, well, Tila Tequila is Vietnamese. And we have to claim
I know that.
for better. Yeah. Okay. Well, it has been wonderful talking to y'all. You're incredible. You're amazing. You can ask for $50 from anyone for the entire month of May. And I don't know, like, kill a white guy in their sleep tonight.
Listen to my podcast. I have a psychic advice podcast.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I forgot to
No,
plug
I wasn't talking to you. I was to the audience. You're doing fine. You're great. You're
Oh my
beautiful. You're
God.
wonderful.
Okay.
Audience,
Okay.
listen to my podcast. It's called Psychic Friends. Friends is spelled with a Z at the end of it because we're quirky.
Yes. Listen to Dash's podcast, Psychic Friends. You can find it on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Chris, would you like to plug off for us?
Yeah, read Off Mag. It's at AWFMAG on socials and everything. We are, I believe, the only, but we're the first LGBTQ plus satire website, and so we've been doing this since 2019.
We have been doing this since 2019. Chris and I are both on the writing staff. It's incredible. We're great.
I intend to get back really soon. I've been taking a mental health hiatus the last couple months.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on mental health. And anything to plug?
Nope. Nothing. Sorry. You can follow me on Instagram at
Do
Tan.
you
Follow
post cool spider pics? Do you post cool spider pics?
Yes, I will post cool spider pics. I do. You can scroll down and see my spider pics, but I'll post a new spider pics if you follow me at Tan.
Amazing. And I have a cool We Are Trans thing to plug. Our next show, here's the Eventbrite link. It's also in the comments. See that. And then also I'm in a residency and my show's gonna premiere on June 29th on Ars Nova's streaming platform. And I guess we are looking out of here. Everyone say goodbye.
Peace.
Goodbye. Venmo me $50.